Hello everyone. So today we will be presenting about our research project where we researched soil moisture retention detection. We tested different types of soils and how much moisture they retained over time. So for our background and design objectives, we chose to expand on our last project, which was a self-watering pot, by using a moisture sensor to detect moisture levels in three different types of soils, which was potting soil, tropical soil, and cactus soil. So our main goal was to be able to differentiate which types of soil had the best moisture retention. And so it was important to us to gain accurate readings to support the overall goal of the project. Um, so we wanted to make sure that our moisture sensor was accurate and we got accurate readings so that we could be able to find which soil was able to retain the most moisture. And we used feedback from our last project to decide that we wanted to test moisture retention in different soils. So we found that with our last project, we could alter the amount of water that was given to each plant with the self-watering pot. So we wanted to find like across different types of plants and different types of soil, how much water we would need to water them based on, or how much water they would need based on the moisture retention of the soil.
So for our project, the overall design and setup was very simple. As far as the electronic components of the project go, all we had was the Arduino board and the moisture sensor, since they didn't require anything else to be put together and used. For the soil portion of the project, we used three different types of soil: potting, cactus, and tropical soil, which were each placed into the same type of plastic pot. To gather the most accurate data possible, we made sure when we were watering the different soils and taking their moisture levels that we watered them with the same amount of water each time. And we also made sure to gather multiple samples of data, so we measured them over 5 days.
Hi, my name is Kira, and I'm going to walk through the testing part of the soil moisture retention detection project. So initially, I poured the three different types of soil into three different pots and labeled them. And then I added a little bit of water to each of them. And then I tested the moisture using the Arduino configuration that we had. And after it was like tested, and I just took the average of the first attempts in the Arduino, and I computed the average in Excel, and then that went into the data. And I did that for each of them, and then I would do that 3 times a day for 5 days, and that's the data we ended up having. So for the different like types of soil, one thing I noticed is that the tropical potting soil was a lot looser in texture compared to the other two types of soil, and it took longer to initially absorb water than the other two. For the moisture sensor, it needed to be like fully submerged in the types of soil to get the most accurate reading. And that was about it for the testing of the project.
Hello, my name is Larissa Coughlin, and I will be talking through the code for our project. So first, on our poster, you can see that we've created some flowcharts to give a basic idea of what our code does. We use two main applications of coding. We used C++ in Tinkercad to wire our Arduino and set up the moisture sensor that we used, and then MATLAB to plot our t-tests and show the trend line of the moisture over the days. So first, for our C++ code in Tinkercad, we started the application, set our integers, and ran through the function that we created that turns on the moisture sensor, clicks the data, and then returns that value of whatever it finds. So here I'll show you that in Tinkercad. So here you can see our circuit a little bit bigger. We have the moisture sensor here, and it's connected to the analog pins here, a digital pin up here, and ground. So here you can see those integers that I talked about where we have moisture, which is just the placeholder for the data, the soil plant and the soil power, which provide power to the moisture sensor. So here we set up the serial monitor so that way we can read what those moisture values are later on. In our void loop, we have read the soil, which goes down to the function that we created called read soil, and it turns on the moisture sensor, reads the data for 1 second, turns the moisture sensor off, and then returns that value to be printed up here in the void. Okay, so here for our MATLAB code, you can see that we've created a file that has taken all the data that we've collected over the 5 days and put them into columns. So here in the first column, you can see we have our days, which is 1 through 5. The second column is the data for the potting soil. The third column is for the cactus soil, and then the fourth column is for tropical soil. So then in the main body of our code, you can see that we've taken those 4 columns and given them a label. And then we are finding all the days that are labeled day 5 in column 1 and finding the means of the 3 data types. So then from that, we are creating figure 1, which takes all of the data points over 5 days and creates a scatter plot for each of the soil types and finds a polyfit. So here I'll run that so you can see what that looks like. So here's our graph. You can see in the x-axis we have day, and then in the y-axis we have moisture. And then on each of those days you can see all the 3 types of potting soil and the 3 points that we've taken on each of the days, as well as the polyfit. And here you can see that we have t-values, or p-values from the t-tests that we've created, and then as well as a legend, so that way the reader can more easily see what each of the lines and plot points mean. So going back to our code, you can see that we have those t-tests here, and each of the t-tests take each of the soil types and compare them to the other. So we have cactus and potting, tropical and potting, and then tropical and cactus. So then we can take our data and create a conclusion about how the moisture decreases over the 5 days in comparison to the other soil types. And that is all for our code. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Tanya, and I'm covering the results section of our soil moisture retention detection project. We utilize MATLAB to graph the moisture retention of the 3 different types of soils over the 5 days that we collected data. The soils that we used were potting, tropical, and cactus soil. Over the 5 days, 3 readings were collected that can be seen on the graph on the screen. The first day of the data collection, the moisture levels were low for all 3 soils, but that was to be expected. At the end of the 5 days, the water had absorbed a little more into all the soils evenly. And on the 5th day too, we conducted t-tests on all the soils. So the data for tropical versus cactus was P equals 0.8426. For cactus versus potting, it was P equals 0.256554, and for potting versus tropical, the data was P equals 2086, or 0.02086. The final conclusion that we were able to gather from our results was that it showcased that there's a significant difference in the moisture level between potting and cactus soil.
Hi, my name is Gloria Gladden. I am a mechanical engineering student and I'm a part of this ME 208 group. I will be going over the future thoughts section. So the first thing we have listed on this poster is that we would have a longer testing period with more trials. One thing we would do moving forward is that we would gather data over a span of weeks if possible, and we would do multiple trials just to get accurate data over a span of collections. Next thing we have listed is that we would incorporate adding different amounts of water to the soils to see how the moisture retention would change. Going forward in the future, we would add different amounts of water throughout the testing and trial period just to further test how the soil retains the moisture that we add to it, and seeing if it is a different amount that the soil holds on to if we add more water than less water, and see which soil holds more water better or if it gets rid of more water faster. The last thing we have is, if possible, we would put the pots in a more climate-controlled room rather than a dorm room. So we would put the pots rather in a home or a greenhouse versus putting the pots in a dorm like how we did currently. So those are just a few things that we would do for future moving forward. Thank you.